Have you encountered land disruptions, either because the SGR is passing by your land or because you have received a notice from the government saying that it needs to acquire your land for a certain purpose? Well, join us today on the Wakili Mkononi Show as we demystify what compulsory land acquisition means. I am your host, Mercy Wanza. Today we are discussing the legal process involved when the government comes and takes your precious piece of land. And joining us today is none other than a renowned scholar and also a senior counsel, Paul Ndongo of the Ndongo Report. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Great. So we'll just get right into it, and we want to understand a few terms and what it means to have land and to have it taken away from you. Could you start by elaborating or explaining or defining rather what land acquisition is?
Let me start by saying this, that owning land is a constitutional right, and it is guaranteed under Chapter 4 of the Constitution, that is the chapter on the various Bill of Rights. And what it says in there is that every Kenyan is entitled to own a piece of land, to either buy or inherit or whatever in any part of the country. Now, the question of the government waking up one morning and coming bulldozers and taking away your land is perhaps misunderstood. Because as I say, you have that constitutional right, but the constitutional right is not absolute in the sense that the government can still legally acquire your land for public purposes.
Right, and maybe we can just explain more on that. So does that mean, like we have seen many times, the government coming with the bulldozers, popularly known as Sunny, coming to take or to just sort of bulldoze your land away or your building? My question is it normal, is it right, is it legal for the government to do that?
Yes and no, because it all depends on why the government is coming with bulldozers. And this is why I said there is a misconception, because if your house or you yourself are sitting on a piece of land which was not legally acquired, it was a road reserve, it was a forest, any of those public utility type facilities, if that's where your land is, you are sitting there with your houses and so on, then you are there illegally. And what tends to happen is the government will ask you to move, and of course you will resist, and that towing and throwing will go on for some time. And then when they realize that you are not likely to move any time, they bring the bulldozers at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right. So I hear an aspect of it is not an absolute right, that the government can come in whenever required.
Yes.
Right. Now, so that brings us to the next question. Then what is the process of compulsory acquisition?
Well, by the way, I should just mention that the Constitution itself, having given you the rights I talked about, also states that the rights under Chapter 4 do not apply to lands that were illegally acquired. And that brings us to the point we just discussed. Now, you ask about the procedure. The procedure for acquisition is set out in great detail in the Land Act. It used to be the Land Acquisition Act, but that was repealed in 2012 when the new land laws were enacted. And it's a process. The government or the county government or the national government is required to follow those procedures strictly to the letter. And it always, it's the administration of it is done by the National Land Commission on behalf of the government and on behalf of the county governments. And it runs like they said you a notice They publish a notice in the Gazette, or rather even before they do that, they do their own survey and determine that this road is going to go through here, or this SGR is going to pass through your land. Once they have finished that exercise, then they publish a notice in the Gazette, and they also serve you with the same notice to say the government intends to acquire this land for SGR, road, airport, whatever. All right? And so they tell you that that's going to happen. 30 days later, they publish another notice and give it to you as well, and they tell you there will be an inquiry on a particular date. An inquiry is a meeting whereby you as the landowner come with your values of what you are likely to lose, the land itself, the houses, the crops, the trees, and all that kind of thing. The government itself is expected to have done the same exercise themselves. They should know this land is worth X, valuing the land. You as the landowner are entitled to value, and you discuss those issues at that inquiry, that meeting I'm talking about. If the two sides are able to agree on the value, then that is step number 2, which is done. Step number 3 will be the National Land Commission, which, by the way, will have received the compensation funds from the government or from the local authority or the parastatal that is acquiring the land. They will have received the funds. So they then pay you, if that is agreed. They pay you the compensation, and once you are paid, you are then expected to surrender your title documents and arrange to move out. You are required to move out within a particular period. If you don't move, of course, then the bulldozers will come and remove you. So then you surrender your own title deeds to the National Land Commission, who pass them on to the land registry concerned, so that then they are cancelled and new ones are issued in favor of the state or the county government.
Which is now the new owner.
Which is now the new owner. If they were acquiring only a portion of your land, because that happens quite a lot, then they are required to have surveyed the land and mapped out what it is that, what portion they are requiring, and they ought to have valued it, as I said, and so on and so on.
Right. Now, I think that's quite a great elaboration of the process of land acquisition. There's an aspect of compensation, and that means paying the original landowner.
Right.
Now, how does the NLC determine how much? But I hear it's in the value. Maybe could you expound that?
For this purpose, the National Land Commission, within their establishment, have valuers. Because these sort of exercises of compulsory acquisition are going on all the time. So they have maybe a valuer or valuers within their department. If they don't have enough of those, they borrow them from the Ministry of Lands. So they have professionals who should be able to be able to value the land.
Okay, so they say, for example, my land is worth this much, but I don't feel like that's enough. Is there a remedy for me?
It's not good enough to just say it is not enough. What you have also got to do, if you think the value of your land is much more than what the National Land Commission is saying, you have the right to engage a private surveyor, a private valuer, to advise you, so that in addition to just saying my land is worth much more, you are producing an assessment by a professional valuer as well.
So you're coming to compare notes.
You're coming to compare notes with the government valuer, and by and large, it works. If it doesn't work, then there is, under the law, there is a land compensation tribunal to which you can appeal, and they will again go through it. If that still doesn't work, you have access to the High Court.
Great. So I think that is well elaborated. And finally, maybe, is it legal for the government to have an early entry and possession of your land before compensation?
Yes, they can. If remember this, that once the government has determined that this public road is going to go through here, you can't stop them. If they feel, if for some reason they need to start on that road right tomorrow, and they haven't gone through all the processes that I'm talking about, they can come and take it. But eventually they will have to compensate you.
Eventually.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, great. I think that was such an enlightening session on matters to do with land acquisition and compensation and how that is determined, and of course even valuing of your land, and also the remedy when you feel that this is not enough for me, then you can have the High Court or some tribunals.
Yeah.
Right. So thank you very much, Senior Counsel, for joining us today. That was great.
Thank you.
Asante. We have come to the end of yet another episode. Many thanks for watching. For more simplified legal information, you can log on to our website on www.wakilimkononi.co.ke, or you can follow us on our social media pages at Wakilim Kononi on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Until next time, remember, ignorance of the law is no defense. Bye-bye.